So, hey guys, welcome to Marriage Matters. I'm Tanya Coleman. I'm here with my handsome co-host,
Glenn Coleman.
And we are the Colemans from Marriage Matters. That would be us. So welcome to this week's show. We're here just to have some conversation, have some fun. We discuss marriage. We discuss relationships, all sorts of things. And this week, there's a lot happening, as everyone is aware of. I would say in our nation, but not just in our nation, literally across the world right now, we are all in a sort of a pandemic, not sort of, but we're in a pandemic is what people are calling it. And so we wanted to come to everyone, to check in with you, to see how you're doing, how you and your family are doing, your spouse, making sure that people are taking the time to do some self-care. And we're going to talk a little bit about what we've been doing and how we've been managing our time during quarantine. Yeah. So what have you been doing during your time of quarantine?
Well, I mean, not much has changed. I'm working,
Yeah.
But I think it's a great opportunity to do some things that we quote unquote never have time to do.
Right.
I was on a podcast, I was watching a live stream last week with Jamal King, the 9 to 5 millionaire. Shout out to Jamal King.
Shout out to Jamal.
And he was talking about he was talking about the whole. He was a police officer, and he talked about. And I've seen it. We've all seen it before, like when police officers go off somewhere in park. And he said they call that the hold, and he said most officers would sleep in the hole. They would get on social media in the hole. They would do all these things, eat donuts in the hole.
Right.
But he said when he was in the hole, he used it as an opportunity to learn. That's how he learned about real estate. He read real estate. He studied real estate. He went and looked at he had to patrol anyway. Right. So he said he would go and look at properties. And so he was just saying, like, he sees this as an opportunity, as like the whole, because, a lot of people, they are not working. They're at home all day. And so you have a choice.
Right.
You can watch Netflix all day or, and nothing wrong with that. I think it's if you want to take some time to just kind of chill. And but, I think it's really important that we don't just see this as a pandemic.
Right.
And not just see this as something bad, which I know there are people that are hurting. Our hearts go out to those who have been affected by this, whether that's someone who has it or a loved one who has this virus.
Right. Absolutely.
But also, we could see this as an opportunity, because, one of the things, you were asking me, well, maybe I don't know if I'm getting ahead of it, but
go ahead.
But you were asking me, what did I learn, or what have I been learning in this time? And for me, one of the things that I've learned is I just realized how busy we were.
Yeah.
How fast paced and how just back to back we live.
Right.
And it's like I don't think I would have ever seen that if I would not have. If everything would have stopped.
If you hadn't been forced to stop and slow down.
And really look and see. And now it's like, what am I going to do with all this time?
Right.
So, I think my encouragement to you is just, use this as an opportunity, use this as an opportunity to, get closer to your family. That's something, we talk about doing the work and working on your marriage. Well, now is the time. Number one, if you haven't been doing that work, for some of you, it's so painful to be stuck at home with your family.
Right, it's probably festering up right about now.
So, but for me, it's like, man, there's no place I would rather be than here, in my house with my wife and with my two girls, and just enjoying this time. I was sharing with a friend of mine that, at the beginning of the year, part of our vision meeting that we had, we said that, we wanted to do family family dinner together as a family at least 3 nights a week.
Right.
And man, I can honestly say we have not been doing a great job
We
at
have not
that.
been successful
And
every
it's
week.
not that we don't want to. It's just
Right.
that, again, like I said, we're just so busy. And so maybe I was thinking maybe we've done it 2 weeks where we've done 3. I mean, we do dinner nights,
Right.
1 or 2 a week, but 3, maybe 2 weeks. But I said, now we could do dinner together every night.
Almost every night.
Because-
we're either at the table or sitting around the living room,
so-
however we choose to do it.
So, you
Yeah.
know, this is an opportunity to do the work, to sit down and actually have the conversations. You know, we talked about this a lot on the show about having those moments to check in. You know, how am I doing? Having those open and honest conversations with each other about, you know, how am I doing? How can I improve?
Right.
This is a great time to do that.
Absolutely. And to actually have the opportunity to start putting those improvements in place, you know, and getting that feedback from your spouse and your kids. I really believe, and we do this also with checking in with the kids and say, hey, you know, how's mom and dad doing? You know, what are some things in the family that you feel like we need to work on or do differently? You know, times where you feel that you've been misunderstood or what have you. We have those conversations. So this is a great time to create another level of vulnerability within your home. I think since we have been home these last couple of weeks, we've completed mostly the kids, my oldest daughter, with the help of the youngest daughter. I think we put our hands in a couple times, but we've completed a 500-piece puzzle. We've had a couple of game nights, actually one game that we had never played before, and we were like, what in the world? But we figured it out. It was a Christmas gift, actually, that had never been opened. That particular game was something that Auntie Nikki had given the girls. And so we did that, you know, having the family movie time. I think we've done that a couple times. We're actually popping homemade popcorn around here these days and not just microwave popcorn. You know, it's the little things. As the kids had, you know, they've always had microwave popcorn. So it's like, well, you know, let me look. You know, let me see how this works. You know, we have a glass top. You know, little things that we normally just take for granted. We're not taking so for granted anymore. You know, enjoying this quiet time, enjoying this downtime together, praying with one another. Those are things that, you know, we typically do, but again, we haven't been doing them as consistently as far as like sitting down, reading the Bible together as a family, as consistently as we want to do it. We hadn't had the time to do it. And so now it's like we have those opportunities.
I wouldn't even say that. Not, you know, we say we don't have the time.
We haven't
made the time.
Yeah.
You know, and so now it's almost like this is an opportunity where it's like, and I don't say God is I don't like saying God did this, but I'm saying it's like God saying, okay, now I'm giving you the time.
Right.
You know, you didn't make the time, so no, I'm gonna give you the time.
Right. You can use this time for that.
So one thought just occurred to me. It's like, how are you going to grow? Because that's one thing.
Yeah, during this time,
you should set a goal for yourself. Is to, when I come out of this, we should all be better. We should all be better spiritually. We should all be better physically. We should all be better financially.
Yeah.
And we should all be, did I say emotionally yet?
Not yet. I was waiting on it.
We should all be better emotionally.
Yeah.
You know, I remember I had a friend of mine who he was, you know, for those of you who don't know me well, this is not a problem for me.
You almost made me spit out my coffee.
Because
no, this is not a problem for him.
You know, I saw a post on Facebook or Instagram, I can't remember which one, but it was like, when you realized that your lifestyle was quarantine. It's like, that's me. You know, I am a homebody. I don't, you know, I'm not, man, most people don't believe this, but I'm not like the social butterfly or the life of the party. I do that a lot of times just because a lot of times I serve in roles where I have to be a leader or have to be, you know, in the front and out front. But that's not who I am. I'm more of an in the background type person. And I forgot where I was going with all of this.
You said that this is not a problem for you. A friend of yours?
Yes. Thank you. So there was a friend of mine who, and I remember this, he he was at this was one weekend, and he was at home by himself, and his wife and his kids had left to go somewhere for the weekend. I can't remember, but he was calling me. He's like, "Hey man, what you doing?" And I'm like, nothing. But he was one of those people. It's like he couldn't be by himself.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I question that. A lot of people, they can't. It's like when you're by yourself, you're forced to really look at yourself. I know people who it's like they can't. I remember this, and I've done this a couple of times, but and you ought to maybe not, maybe be led by the Holy Spirit. But I remember in worship a couple of times, we were singing, and I just told them the guys to stop playing, and there was no singing, there was no music, there was just silence. And to see the uncomfortability, is that a word, of the congregation?
Not sure, but we'll look it up.
But you could see it in their body language. Some of them, they had their eyes closed and they had their hands raised. And after a while, it was like, what should we be doing? Because we live in a world where silence is uncommon.
It's uncomfortable, yeah.
It's uncomfortable, and I'm going through this life coach certification. Shout out to Mark and Melissa Dunwah of the Kitchen Table. Love you guys, awesome couple. But one of the things that they teach us in that in coaching and in counseling is don't be afraid of the silence,
right?
Because a lot of times, when you are coaching or you're counseling, I know for me, I've always felt the pressure to always have an answer. When people ask or when people are talking, when they're done, it's like, I need to have something to say to keep the conversation going. But sometimes, and I've been practicing this, and it's funny, so we're coaching with each other right now. And it's funny, even, when I'm practicing, it's like, okay, I'm gonna just practice. And not that I'm trying to be silent, but if I don't have anything to say at that moment, I'm practicing or I'm learning to be okay with. Let's just
don't let the silence pressure you.
Let's just sit. Let's just sit in this. And they'll they'll be looking, and then they'll look off and look away, and I can see the wheels turning in their heads, like, what can I say next?
Right.
Because we're just so uncomfortable in silence. And the Bible talks about this. He says, that God he has a still small voice. And I think we ought to use part of this time just to practice being in silence.
Yeah.
Just being there, just hanging out and being okay with just hearing the nothing's on, there's no noise.
Right.
And the other thing that I've noticed is that how loud the softest things become in silence. Yep. So like the other day, I was out on on our patio in the back, and I had just cleaned it off, but I went back out there. I came in when I went back out for something. I was just standing there, and we live out kind of not in rural, but it's a quiet, pretty quiet neighborhood, except from when our neighbor's dogs start barking. But other than that, but as I was just still and quiet, it's like all these other noises that I started hearing, and I'm like, wow, man, it's so great. And then what I got out of that is like they were always there. The birds, the crickets, the frogs, all those things were always there. But we were not silent enough. We were not still enough to hear them.
Right.
And I think that's what happens a lot of times in our lives is we're so busy, even with our spouses, a lot of times we're not really hearing them. We're not really seeing them. Is because we're so busy. And even with each other, we're trying to figure out who's going to pick up Bethany from tennis practice and how Bailey's going to get from band practice. And, Bethany has his club meeting, and Bailey, and then I got this meeting, we have church leadership team, and we got all these things, and we've been pulled in all these different directions, and we're just trying to figure life out, that we forget the calmness. And it's like, if we can't go, 10 minutes without checking our social media or we always got to have something, and we can never just be. Yeah.
And I think you said, you mentioned that scripture, about God's speaking in a still small voice. We talked about the silence, but also we're in a time of stillness, where we can't or shouldn't leave our homes the way we were doing. You know, we are being asked to literally stay home, you know, and to be still, stay within your domain, you know. And I was watching a video earlier, and they were doing a gender reveal. So they had planned this huge gender reveal. Well, they couldn't do it, you know, and so they were just doing it at home with their families. They still dressed up and decorated and stuff. But she's like, my husband right now, like, he literally would say, babe, I'm just going to ride around the corner. Like, he cannot stay still. But it's in that stillness, it's in that quietness where God speaks to us the most. You know, I often, you know, at least a few times, you know, create where I'm quiet and I'm still and I'm sitting. I may have my Bible open. I may just have it near me, a notebook, a pen. And quietly, when I have those moments, I call it my thinking space, create that thinking space, then God begins to talk, and that's where my creativity begins to flow. And so, like yesterday, once, you know, I began to feel well, and so creativity began to flow. And so I started writing out, doing some research on YouTube and writing out some ideas. I had to go back and open up my little folder, you know, about some book ideas. It's like, you know, allow this time to be a time where God speaks to you and you allow him to pull on your gifts and your talents and your skills. In doing that, I was like, you know what? There are 4 of us in this house. Every one of us have something on the inside of us that other people need to know. And so this is something that I want us to sit down and do as a family, you know, where I sat and did this wheel of these ideas about a book. I believe all of us have that in us. So that is something that God spoke to me that, okay, you can take this and create family time and begin to teach your children more about pulling out their gifts and their creativity. So for me, this is really a wonderful time. It's a beautiful time. I'm probably a bit more social than you are. I know our youngest, Bailey's like, you know, I need my people. She misses her friends, you know, at school. Bethany's like, I'm good. You know, she's like her dad. She doesn't necessarily need a whole lot of people. But at the same time, it's good for all of us to stop and to slow down. Yeah. It's good for all of us to take a breather from all of that activity that you were talking about earlier, and take advantage of this time. I don't think this is a time of loss. I actually think this is a time of gain, if we use it correctly.
And you said the word time, I don't know, like 6 times.
Did I?
Yeah. But I'm just saying, you know, time is our most valuable commodity.
Yes, it is.
You know, time, most people say time is money. And they're right. It's not that. Time is the most valuable thing that we possess. Because even to make money, you need time. You know, and I know there's some, well, I'll just say you need time. So, Jamal King, again, I'll refer back to Jamal King, the 9 to 5 millionaire. Look him up on IG.
Yeah, he's amazing.
9 to
Awesome
5 millionaire. But anyway, he said something. He said that there has never been a man or a woman who is on their deathbed and they say, man, I wish I would have made more money.
Right.
Most people want what?
More time.
They want more time.
Yeah.
They want more time.
Right.
And we have just been given back. You know, people talking about the stimulus checks. You already have a stimulus check, and it's called time.
Yep.
God He has restored time to you. So it's like, what are you gonna do that with that time? You know, Pastor Norman, our pastor, he says that if you want to see what a man values, you look at his checkbook, his calendar, and his checkbook. How he
spends his time, yep.
And so the calendar will show you how he spends his time, and the checkbook will show you how he spends his money. But it goes back to that calendar, that schedule. Is like, are you putting in time? And I know, and I say this a lot. I know I need to be more proactive of spending time with my kids, with my girls, and I know for one, I think we do a pretty good job of spending time with them as together. But I know I need to spend time with them individually,
Right.
because they are two separate,
Correct.
different people, and they have different interests and,
Right.
and different
needs.
Yeah, so that's one thing that I really want to work on. So again, we have right now. You have one of the most valuable things that you can do. As a matter of fact, I think one of the things that the enemy tries to do with us is a lot of times he wants us busy. He wants us preoccupied. Sure. There's an account in the in Exodus, I think it is, when the children of Israel, they're enslaved to Egypt, to Pharaoh, and they're building all these monuments for Pharaoh, and they start to. I think they go to him, and hopefully I'm remembering this right, but they go to him and they say, we want to go into this place to go and worship our God.
Right.
And so Pharaoh comes back and it's like, oh, you guys want to go worship? You got time to worship? He says, don't give them straw to make bricks anymore. In other words, make them more busy because they have too much time on their hands.
Right.
And I think that's how the enemy keeps us in...
It's like slavery.
Yeah, he keeps us in a place of not living up to our potential, not living up to our greatness, because every one of us is great. The enemy, nobody can stop your greatness because you are already great. Why? Because you are a child of God. Right? But what the enemy can do is he can keep you so preoccupied with life that you don't tap into your greatness.
That's right.
And so now this is the opportunity that you have now to tap into the greatness. So what are you doing? Like Tanya said, what books are you writing? What songs have you left on the shelf? What businesses have you not started?
Right.
All these things. And I'm just kind of preaching to myself right now, and so
it's all good.
You use this time to tap into that.
Look at your finances. Look at your budget. Look at your debt if you have it now, and begin to, look at strategy. Make some phone calls. People are working from home, so you may actually get someone on the phone. Send some emails, ask some questions. About interest rates and payoffs and consolidations and extending payments during this time. Can we defer my payments during this time so that I can, you can save up your money and, do all of these different things. Start being proactive with this time. What can you do in your home? My boss is like, oh, I'm painting my walls, and I talked to someone else today. She's like, oh,
I do that. We need to paint, but I hate.
She's like, right now I'm organizing those unseen places that I never have time, to get to. Take advantage of this time. Have some sit down conversations with your family members. Teaching your kids maybe about family members or family history and legacy and things that they've never heard before. Share some stories, some good stories. And things like that. I thought that I always said, I can never homeschool my kids, because when I'm trying to teach them and, we're clashing. And guess what? We have a homeschool schedule going on, and it is beautiful right now. And look, he's still looking at me like, yeah, this is because it's not real.
I don't know. We'll see. I'm not. Let me not
don't
be.
Speak that.
I don't speak that.
Yeah, stay silent over here.
Mm-hmm.
But it's going well, and I think now because they're older, and they know how to manage their time well for the most part. I say that for the most part, they know how to manage their time well. When you give them structure and a schedule, he is still. So anyhow, but we're doing well. We're doing really well. I think I had a few days I was kind of out for a count. Had a little health challenge going on. God is revealing to me how to heal my body. So in the process of that, and Glenn and the girls were holding things down and still are holding things down during that process. So besides that, and should I say that it was not Corona?
That Rona. It wasn't that Rona, man.
No, it was not that. I just thought about that, like, oh, well, it's nothing. And it's not a laughing matter at all. And thank God that it's not that, and definitely praying for people who are struggling with that, because it's not a joking matter.
It's not.
At all. But I just felt like, people insinuate things all the time. So just wanted to clear that up. But anyhow, guys, we just wanted to come to you and see how you all are doing, how you're managing this time. As Dr. Jamal King says, in the whole, we're doing our best to be productive in the whole and produce some things during this time, and be a better us when we come out on the other side of this.
Yeah. So again, guys, in closing, use this time to work on your marriage. Use this time to work on your relationship with your kids, on all those ideas that you had. Whatever it is, pray and ask God, God, what is it that I should be focusing on in this time?
Yeah.
Because now you got time to even ask. Sometimes we didn't have time to ask.
Right.
So now you have time to do that. So,
right.
We love you guys.
Absolutely.
If there's anything we can do to help, reach out, to us, inboxes, send us a message. We're here, and we are just believing and expecting and looking to grow during this time.
Yes.
All right. You got anything else?
No, I just want to say thank you all for joining us again. We will see you next week.
Yep. So this is Glenn and Tanya Coleman reminding you that
your marriage matters.
We'll see you
next week.